What is up, YouTube? I'm Gout874 here, bringing you guys week 7 of the PCP. This week we are taking on Brett, coach of the Philadelphia Swirlixers. We are going into this game with a 6-0 record, while my opponent is going into this game with a 5-1 record. Now, this game will be our final conference game of the season, as there are 7 other people in our conference, and it is week 7, so basic math tells you that this is going to be our final opponent. And it just so happens to be against the guy who is in second place, as we are in first place right now, which is really awesome. I want to talk about Brett before I get into this. Brett is actually a really unique person, because Brett is the only person participating in all 3 leagues that I am also participating in, the PCP in this video, the PTL, and the APM. So I thought that was really cool, and I actually didn't even know who Brett was up until these leagues. I don't know if he's new to the draft league scene, or I ironically just joined all these draft leagues at the same time I did. I'm not completely sure, but I'm really excited regardless to face him. Plus, he's from New Jersey, I think, so New Jersey gang right there. And again, I'm excited for this battle, but just like last week, I'm not going to reveal every single thing in the team builder, just because he could be a potential playoff opponent, because, again, second place. But that's basically all I have for the introduction. In regards to the matchup, it's just like any other matchup. It's actually pretty good overall, but there are some problems that I do have to face in this battle, as I'm going to break down when I get to his team any second. But overall, not that bad of a matchup. But anyway, let's get into Brett's team. My opponent Brett this week has a team consisting of Megalopony, Celesteela, Gothitelle, Suicune, Hatterene, Rillaboom, Darmanitan, Type Null, Rhyperior, Avalugg, and Hitmonchan. Now I expect him to consist of Megalopony, Celesteela, Gothitelle, Suicune, Darmanitan, and Hitmonchan. He could bring a bunch of other things, but these are really the 6 I'm expecting, especially the top 4 I think will definitely come. But the reason this makes this matchup is so hard is because he has a Gothitelle, and Gothitelle does have Shadow Tag in this league. If you do not prep for Gothitelle with Shadow Tag, it's the same thing with Arena Trap and Dugtrio, it will run through your team. And hence I have to build a certain way to combat this team. I definitely can beat the Gothitelle, it is completely possible, but there are certain mons that do struggle with it, and if I let Gothitelle trap them, it could become a serious problem. So that's why I had to prep in a certain way I did. Also, new mons he has are the Hatterene and the Rillaboom. I forgot about that. They could come, but I think Gothitelle is more of a threat than Hatterene in my opinion. And other things that are pretty annoying for my team, though, are his offense can definitely overwhelm me if I don't prep for a certain way. There are mons in the end of this build that are more threatening to my team than others just because of the way I build. I'm not going to mention which mons, but I can only prep for so much in one game, so definitely something can catch me off guard, and I have to watch out for that. Luckily, the good thing about this matchup is that his defense isn't that hard to deal with, mainly because a lot of them lack recovery, namely the Celesteela and the Suicune, and they both share the electric weakness. I have a Zera Aura. Suicune is known to be the fattest thing in the entire world, but I have some really good answers to Suicune overall, so I'm actually not that scared of that thing. Type Null doesn't get recovery outside of rest. Avalugg does, but Avalugg's not that hard to deal with. And again, Celesteela lacks recovery, so they're annoying, but they're not that hard to deal with overall. And that's kind of my game plan, is to just try and beat those down, so I only have to really worry about his offense in the end. And that's sort of the goal I'm going to try and accomplish in this game. But that is basically it for my opponent's team. The team I am rocking out with this week is Porygon Z, Conkeldurr, Mandibuzz, Zeraora, Slowking, and Crustle. Our first member of the team this week is going to be Porygon Z, making its season debut. By the way, this thing's nicknamed Crack Energy, and now we have Crack Energy and Dat Energy on the team. That's pretty cool. Porygon Z is holding choice specs with the adaptability Tri-Attack, and we also have Thunderbolt, Shadow Ball, and Trick. Trick is just in case he brings the Cosmic Power Rest Gothitelle, because that set is extremely annoying, and limiting it to one move would be really nice. But this is really here just to break his team. Everything faster than PZ does not take a Tri-Attack, and everything slower gets 2-shot by one of my moves, if not just 1 shot in general. This thing hits insanely hard for absolutely no reason. I think Tri-Attack does 30% to almost max Def Celesteela, and I know my opponent does like to play a little bit more offensive, so if he brings an offensive Celesteela, that could potentially do half damage. That's just stupid. That's just so good. His team's more physically bulky than anything, and that's why I decided I wanted to break more on the special side this week, and that's what Porygon Z is mainly here for. I'm mainly going to be clicking Tri-Tag 9 times out of 10. It's only that one Goth set I'll end up clicking Trick if he decides to do that, but that's basically what Porygon Z is here for. I'm really excited to use this thing. I hope it does a lot of work. I feel like it will, because this thing is just really good overall. Speaking of good overall, we're going to move on to our second Mon, which is Conkeldurr. Conkeldurr is holding the Shed Shell to make sure I don't get trapped out of that Goth. Moves being a Drain Punch, Mach Punch, Thunder Punch, and Knock Off with the Guts ability. This is just here, good coverage around his team overall. If I have to knock off the Goth, I can, if I want to stay in on that sense. Thunder Punch is for his walls because Suicune and Celesteela do not appreciate it. Mach Punch always does like 80% to Mega Lopunny, so just a little bit of chip on it, and I should be good to beat that thing. And this thing just takes hits from anything, really. It's Conkeldurr. It's just really bulky in the end. It beats down his physical walls pretty effectively. Type Null, Rhyperior, Avalugg, all do not appreciate fighting moves. So, Conquer's priority Mach Punch is always nice. It sucks I don't have Poison Jab for the Hatterene because I am faster than Hatterene, but, you know, you gotta pick and choose what you kind of have on the set. And Thunder Punch is just what I went with in the end. That is basically the Conkeldurr. Third up, we have Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz is not holding the boots this week. I know, shocking, but actually holding leftovers this week with the moves Brave Bird, U-Turn, Toxic, and Roost. I had a really hard time deciding what moves I wanted to run on this thing, but regardless of what moves I ran, Celesteela was always going to wall me, so I decided maybe U-Turn would be better just in case I could pivot around his team more. This is a really good switch into a few of his mons, namely like the Rillaboom if it wants to come, Darmanitan, but if it is banded, it's going to be a little bit of a problem. Same with the Lopunny. If he has like some stupid Lopunny set, it's going to be a little bit annoying to deal with, like Power Up Punch for example. But it's just a nice physical wall, and it's just here to be a nice defensive pivot overall. I've been using it as a wall a lot recently, but I think in this game it's going to be more as a pivot because I want to go on the offensive as much as possible with the PZ because it just hits so hard. But that is mainly the Mandibuzz. We're going to continue on into our fourth mon, which is the Zeraora. Zeraora is holding the Expert Belt with the Volt Switch, Plasma Fist, Grass Knot, and Knockoff. I run Knockoff on like everything apparently, because Knockoff is just super good in this game. His team is extremely electric weak. His only resist is the Rillaboom, and he's got Rhyperior too, but I have Grass Knot for that. And Grass Knot just obliterates Rhyperior if he's not specially defensive, and then I can just Volt Switch out on the Rillaboom. It's not that hard. And then everything else does not like Zeraora whatsoever. I guess Avalugg can take a hit too, but Volt Switch is, again, still there. It's just nice and offensive pivot in the end, but it just cleans up his team really, really effectively. I do have to be careful of a few things, like really bulky Suicune could live a Plasma Fist and possibly Scald Burn me, and that would ruin my Zeraora. So definitely have to watch out for that. And then again, Rhyperior, if he brings it, it's going to be a little bit hard to pivot around his team if that comes. But that is going to be Zeraora. Fifth up, making its season debut as well, is Slowking. Slowking also has the Shed Shell, because I'm not losing to that Gothitelle in any circumstances, with Nasty Plot, Scald, Psyshock, and Slack Off. This is very interesting tech. I originally had a completely different set on this, and then I thought, if I just Nasty Plot, Psyshock always breaks a Suicune sub, so I do not become setup bait for the Suicune, as well as Celesteela. I could Scald, break that sub as well, and then I can never get stalled out, or if I get stalled out, at least we'll get it low enough to the point where I can revenge kill it pretty easily, and it won't be behind a substitute. It's also a really good switch into a lot of his lower tier mons. Again, his physical walls like Rhyperior and Avalugg really hate Slowking, and that is something I'm pretty happy about, and I hope Slowking just wall them if they decide to come, as well as the Darmanitan. I do have to be careful about U-Turn, but outside of U-Turn, I could basically wall Darmanitan for days. And yeah, Slowking is just a really nice defensive mon overall, especially with the Nasty Plot. It becomes not passive whatsoever and can become a potential offensive threat. And then finally, we have the Crustle here. I'm actually bringing Crustle for a second game this season. That's pretty nuts. But I do have some investment there. I actually have some attack in here. I do have the leftovers, and I have Stealth Rock and X-Scissor. I'm going to hide the other moves just because I might bring this again later, and I did like the other moves I had on this. So I'm just going to say I did have Rocks on this just for the option, and X-Scissor just for some general stab, because his team doesn't really like bug moves outside of Celesteela. I guess Lopunny doesn't mind either. I was more leaning towards Gothitelle. It beats Gothitelle with X-Scissor, basically. That's kind of why I liked Crustle here in this matchup, as well as the Hatterene. It can do some serious damage to that, unless it's really bulky. But yeah, that's just Crustle. I thought it was a really interesting mon, but I thought it would catch my opponent off guard this week. I wasn't really expecting to bring it, but hey, Crustle's here. It's going to do its thing. And that's basically going to wrap it up for the team. Positive about this team. We got Zeraora on this team. It's Conk and PZ, so my offense is fire this week. But I hope it does a lot of work. We're going to go head over to the Pokemon Showdown, and we're going to watch the battle. Alright, we have arrived at Pokemon Showdown, and my opponent did not bring the Darmanitan or the Hitmonchan, but did bring the new mons. That is quite fine with me. By the way, guys, I did forget to place the character on the side with the cameraman. That was the first time I did that in a while, so I apologize for that. In regards to lead, I am going to lead off with Zeraora because all I see is a free Volt Switch because my opponent did not bring the Rhyperior. They do lead off with the Rillaboom, which is probably the best thing that's going to take this Volt Switch for them. And I can just go out into Mandibuzz, because Mandibuzz can take on Rillaboom any day of the week. as Rillaboom just goes for drum beating here, which will lower my speed. I'm actually quite happy that's a thing, because now, since my opponent U-turns, I actually U-turn on this turn as well. So I get to keep the momentum as they go out into Celesteela. I get a nice juicy crit here, which does a solid 2%. I can go right back out into Zeraora and rinse repeat. Rillaboom does not get recovery, so it will get worn down rather quickly, especially because I'm going to click Plasma Fist this time, which will do a lot more. My opponent opts to go out into the Gothitelle, which actually takes 36%. That tells me this thing is actually pretty bulky on the defensive side, so I'm a little bit worried about what I'm about to find out. I'm not trapped by this thing because I have Volt Switch and I can just pivot out and I'm not choice locked. As I go into Mana Buzz and Gothitelle clicks Cosmic Power. Now, I said in the Teambuilder I'm going to have to trick this thing in order to deal with this effectively. As I can U-turn this turn, I assume my opponent's going to rest just because they're going to need the health to take hits from other mons, even at +1. As my opponent does decide to rest. And this next turn is big because he could easily switch out into something and tricking something else specs wouldn't be too hot. Fortunately for me, he does stay in and lets me give this Gothitelle specs. Now this is big because now Goth can only choose one move. Yes, I'm locked in here now, Gothitelle, until I kill it or it kills me, but I can just spam Shadow Ball and it's still doing 36%. Looking back at it, keeping specs might have been better because I still probably would have been doing half anyway. But hence, this is mainly for long term. And plus, I can deteriorate the Gothitelle from trying to set up in the future now because of specs. Now, since I got the Spit F drop, I can actually click Tri Attack. It does the same amount of damage, but I wanted the Spit F drop first as he goes into Lopunny. And that's great because I get a lot of chip on this thing. If I was specs, that actually would kill it. But hey, whatever. I deteriorate the Gothitelle from setting up. I go out on the Mana Buzz just to tank the hit. It wants to throw at me as it goes for Drain Punch. That is quite fine. Now you're going to see here, Mana Buzz takes 35% from a Ice Punch. Mana Buzz is just so fat for no reason. I love it. But I'm not going to be spamming Roost forever. Last time I did that, I got frozen and lost the game. So I'm actually going to click Brave Bird, expecting him to try and click it again. But he goes out in the Celesteela and makes the smart move. So now I'm going to have to pivot out. I don't want to take a Toxic right away, as I assume this thing has. So I'll U-turn, just do nothing to it, and I can go out into the Zeraora and try and apply some more offensive pressure, as he does throw off the Toxic. Instead of clicking Plasma Fist this time, I'm actually going to click Knockoff, expecting the Rillaboom or Goth to come in. As Rillaboom comes in, I kind of prefer this actually, just so Gothitelle gets to keep its spec so it's locked into a move, and I actually knock off the Assault Vest on Rillaboom, so now Volt Switch is going to be doing a little bit more, not too much, but a little bit, as I can Volt Switch out and go just back out into the Mana Buzz, because that's the best switch into Rillaboom. My opponent does just Drain Punch, which is really good for me actually, because I can again get another slow U-turn off at some point as we go through the same cycle again. I can get another slow U-turn off as this time the Hat comes out. It doesn't do too much, Hat's kind of bulky. And I can go into PZ. I don't really have a good way to deal with this Hat, but I do have ways to deal with it. I'm just going to Tri Attack it. It does over half. It does so much damage. And they set up a Trick Room. That's fine because I can live any one hit from the Hat. As you see, I live Psychic pretty comfortably, and I can just knock it out with Tri Attack. So 18 turns into the battle, we finally get a kill, which is really nice. But things are looking pretty uphill right now. My opponent is going to bring out the Celesteela now. Because Trick Room is up, I'm actually slower, so I don't want to just T-Bolt it. I go on a slow King just to take whatever hit he throws at me, and that's going to be the Heavy Slam. And here I decide to Scald, and I do 22%, and I burn it. That is very unfortunate for my opponent, Brett. I apologize for burning the Celesteela, because that's really big. It limits the longevity. My plan was actually just to switch out into Zeraora next turn, which I still am going to do, just to stop the Trick Room. That's what my main plan was here, but I just snagged the burn in the middle of it, so apologies to my opponent for that. But because Trick Room ends this turn, I do get a nice hit off with Zeraora this following turn, as he just seeds me, and it's going to do some damage. I do Volt Switch out here, because I don't want Rillaboom to get the Leech Seed back, so I still am able to chip this thing down. And now I can go out into PZ and basically just claim a kill at this point. Nothing really takes Tri Attack too well. And if he wants to go into Celesteela, I could T-Bolt, but Rillaboom just goes down. So it's looking really good right now. Porygon Z is putting in a bunch of work, tricking the Goth, killing the first two mons. It's done a lot. And I want to keep it because I know I can get it in on Goth again. So I'm going to go and just sack out the Mana Buzz at this point to the Lopunny. My opponent has Retaliate, which is a really nice tech. It does 140 base power, so that was really nice. But I still have Crustle for the Lopunny, so I'm not too scared of it. And I can just Mach Punch it. The Goth does come out, but I did mention in the Team Builder I am Shed Shell, so I am not trapped by this thing. And I can just go right back out into PC and just start clicking buttons again. This thing is putting in overtime this matchup. I know I can live any hit from the Goth, so I'm just going to start spamming moves, Tri Attack, because it does the most damage. It still does over half to the Goth. That's pretty insane. I am talking my mouth off. Jeez, wow. I'm going to slow down here a bit as I just click try attack and claim my 3rd kill of the game. That is pretty insane, as now the Lopunny is going to come out here. I could try and save this thing, but the thing is, the only reason I lose this game at this point is if I let the Suicune set up a sub and start setting up on me, and Crustle is one of the few mons that does allow that to happen, so I can't just bring out Crustle for free on the Lopunny. So I decided to sack the PZ here, and basically the Zeraora wins the game as long as Lopunny stays low and I don't get burnt by Scald. That's basically how it's going to be. So here I just have Conkin against Celesteela. I'm going to knock off its leftovers just to limit its longevity even more. And yeah. So again, Zeraora basically just wins this game. I just cannot let that Suicune get a substitute up for free, as I'm just going to go hard Zeraora here. I don't expect him to click any other move besides like Heavy Slam or Protect, so I wasn't too worried about that. And now I get a free Plasma Fist, and this time Celesteela is just going to drop 2 Plasma Fists. So we are up 4-2 at the moment, and that's pretty cool, as I am getting a little bit low, but that's quite fine. I have enough turns to last. I do not have close combat on the Zeraora, plus this Lopunny could have Fake Out, so I'm not going to risk losing my Zeraora, as I can just go out on the Crustle. It does a lot with Drain Punch, but that's fine. And now, in this turn, I know Suicune's going to come out, 100% coming, so I'm going to double into Slowking. And that is great, because he does go out in the Suicune, and I catch him here. This is really big because I do have the Nasty Plot Psyshock on the Slowking, and that prevents the Suicune from being able to keep up a sub. I am on a Toxic Timer, so I will die at some point, but he does set up a sub as I Nasty Plot. And now it begins. All I have to do is just spam Psyshock now, and I basically win the game. That turn basically sealed the entire thing, because again, he's not going to be able to keep up a sub because I am at +2, and Psyshock hits on the physical side. So that was just some nice prep I had there. not to boost myself up, but I thought that was pretty cool. As now I just spam this move. I do speed it up here a little bit just because it happens for a few turns as the Toxic starts to kill my Slowking. And this is going to be the final turn. He just clicks Scald this turn. Slowking goes down. My opponent is at 57% after leftovers, and if he's really, really bulky, Plasma Fists might not kill, but at this point it doesn't even matter because then Conk could just come in and clean up with Mach Punch, so it wouldn't matter at that point, as Suicune just dies to it anyway. And that is basically going to be the game because Conk always beats the Lopunny. As Lopunny comes out, I am going to get hit off on this thing anyway if it's not Fake Out, which he does not go for. He does live on 8%, so I'm actually going to lose a differential point here as their aura goes down, but it's fine, it's differential, who really cares? He is clearly in range of Mach Punch. Conk comes out, I get to click Mach Punch, and your Northside Noiverns are going to move up to a 7-0 record as we have beaten everybody in our conference. GG to Brett. I'm not going to lie to you guys, playing with my offense this week was probably the most fun I've had playing with it in a very long time. PZ, Zeraora, and Conkeldurr, that's very spicy, and the fact that they all did work in this game is absolutely amazing. I had a lot of fun with this team this week. But again, GG to Brett. I hope we do face in the 8 p.m. because I am excited to face you there again. If not, hopefully we face again in the playoffs. But to reiterate for you guys, we are 7-0. We only have 3 more games left, which is pretty cool. The 2 bottom teams in my conference actually did drop the league, so every other team in my conference is guaranteed playoffs. It's just the top 2 get bye weeks. And I want to let you guys know that if we get one more win in this league, we are guaranteed a spot in a bye week. So that is really good. That's what I'm aiming for at this point. But we do have some challenges ahead, especially next week. We face off against the league commissioner, Shay Quazzo. We have fought Shay before on the channel twice, both in the ABC, and he was our finals opponent, and we lost. So this is going to be very interesting. He has a very offensive team, and he is actually the best team in the other conference as well. This is a rematch I've been looking forward to for quite a bit now, so I'm looking very forward to next week's matchup, and I hope you guys are as well. But that's basically going to wrap it up for today's video. Thank you guys for watching so much. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you like Pokemon Draft League content, consider subscribing to the channel. I'm gonna head out of here. Have a fantastic day, YouTube.